it doesn't matter. Something small can really spoil your mood, so you self-medicate, swapping feelings for food. It might seem dumb, but if you're telling the truth, it's probably something dating back to your youth. But it's really not that deep. You probably just need some sleep. There's someone else you're meant to be. You just need a little self-belief. So shut up and buck up. Can't keep up, that's bad luck. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. You wish it didn't matter. It shouldn't really matter, 'cause no one thinks it matters. It doesn't really matter. It shouldn't really matter, 'cause all that really matters is what we decide matters. So what do you think matters? 'Cause all that really matters is what we agree matters. And don't make you wanna run, kick, scream and shout. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Nothing really matters. All that really matters is what we decide matters. Everybody's faking just a little bit sometimes. That's how we get by. 'Cause if everyone was honest about how they feel all the time, sparks would fly. It's only polite, that tongue you should bite, 'cause no one needs to know how you feel inside. We can play pretend, play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. Play the part well enough that even you can't call your bluff. You just might cry when you're meant to. It's okay to lie if you need to. If you make them all believe you, then maybe your life could come true. So just play pretend, play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. Oh, just play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. You never really do much, all you really do is talk. And all your plans are still drawn in chalk. Fantasizing about living the life that you really would. But how could you run? You trip when you walk. So perfect all the lies and smile with your eyes, 'cause God forbid someone could realize what's inside. We can play pretend, play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. Play the part well enough that even you can't call your bluff. You just might cry when you're meant to. It's okay to lie if you need to. If you make them all believe you, then maybe your life could come true. So just play pretend, play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. Oh, just play pretend, play pretend, play pretend. passing train starts to fade. Here by the riverside, somewhere south of paradise ending. Here in my solitude, I am sick to stay and brood freely. Here by the riverside, my somewhere south of paradise now lay me. The rushing of the water is all I can hear. In the cool summer air, everything seems clear. As the sun drifts behind the clouds, no longer feel any doubt. Here by the riverside, somewhere south of paradise ending. Here in my solitude, I am safe to stay and brood freely. Here by the riverside, my somewhere south of paradise now lay me, oh. Here on my island in the river, under the dark sea, no one comes as no one bothers me. Tree shower leaves down on my head, and the birds in the breeze overhead. Boo. As much as I hate to interrupt a guitar solo in the middle, I'm afraid that it is time to start the stream. And as, you know, last time I attempted this stream, it didn't go so well. I feel like I shouldn't start late tonight. So, hello everybody. I don't know if anyone is here yet. So make yourselves known in the chat when you pop up so I can say hello. I'm going to prattle on for a little bit, just to buy a bit of time for people who have only just gotten the notification, or, you know, are going to pop up at exactly 8 PM, or, you know, who might be running a little bit late, as I often am. But tonight I'm not, because tonight I had to make sure that everything was all set up correctly after the debacle that went on last week. I wouldn't mind, right? But literally the second I ended the stream last week and gave up, the technical difficulties resolved themselves. I literally just disconnected everything, you know, clicked off all the different things that you have to click to get the sound all set up correctly. I just clicked them all off and on again, as I had done in the stream, but that time it worked. Which is always the way. The second you give up and you switch everything off, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do the stream at that point anyway, because the camera battery would not have lasted by that point, because it had taken 20-30 minutes, I think, to get there. So yeah, anyway, point being, today I made sure that everything was definitely working before I started the stream. So if it's not working now, it's not my fault, because it was working. Literally just before I went live, it was working, so it should be working. Fingers crossed. Anyway, welcome to this Demos versus Master stream. Hello, Andy. You made it. Cool. Welcome to my Demos versus Master stream. I have done one of these for each of the singles that I have put out. And just a little before we get started with the beef of tonight. Beef? That's not meat. The meat of tonight's stream. Beef is a type of meat, so you can see where my brain went there. Different meaning in that context, though, isn't it? Beef is something you have with somebody. Anyway, not the point. Stop getting distracted. What was the point I was making? Right. I've done one of these for each of my singles,
And I think it'll be probably be fun when the album comes out, because we're very close to that now. When the album comes out, I will probably do one for a couple of the tracks off the album, but not all of them, because there are a lot of tracks on the album. So I'll probably pick out a couple of the most interesting ones. Maybe I'll pick one that I really want to do and then put it to a vote for you guys to pick the other one that you might want to do a Demos to Masters stream for. Anyway, point being, this is the last single off the album, and we're finally getting its comparison to how it sounded when I first sort of started coming up with it and putting down my first recordings for it. So it shouldn't be a long one, tonight's one, because Woke Up was one that I did have a very clear idea in mind already of what it was going to sound like. So that first demo actually has a lot of stuff on it already, and it was just a question of going into the studio and recording a lot of it. There were some additions made after the studio dates, and there was one big decision made that is a big difference between one of the middle demos. You'll see that something was added that then wound up being taken away again. I don't know why I'm acting all mysterious. I feel like if you guys have hung around for a bit, you'll know that the thing that was added was we put a violin part on that I played that I could not really play well enough. I had no business trying to play proper violin, anything other than just a little bit of pizzicato or some, really basic backgroundy stuff. I shouldn't have been trying to do a lead violin part on it, really. I don't know. I only did grade 4 violin, and that was years ago, and I have not been doing it for long enough again yet that I should be trying to throw complex violin parts on things. But anyway, so we will explore that later in the stream. Let's start, shall we, with the very first demo. So these are the first few things that I've laid down just as, stuff that I knew I would need to have, so that when I went into the studio, we had a guide track to work off of. As always, it's easier if I've got a pre-recorded guide track than having to record a guide track in the studio, because that's a whole, that's a whole day recording a whole album's worth of guide tracks. It's just a waste of time, because you won't end up using them in the end. You'll re-record the guitar you did, you'll re-record that vocal. So if you can bring in a demo to use as a guide track, brilliant. So that was the main purpose that a lot of these served, but also to lay down some of those first ideas. So we shall have a little look-see. Our first one, just bring this up here. Here you go. Da-da-da-da. Woke Up, and you can tell it's the original because it's not got demo 1, demo 2, demo 3 after it. Yeah, I'm just going to play it through because, that's the best place to start. I'm going to check as this goes out. This is going out right. Yes! It's working. Simplest of pleasures, the moments we treasure, things we think matter, none of it quite measures up. Things I've been chasing, they got me racing around, and I can't help thinking something I still haven't found. 'Cause I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up, 'cause I think I might be dreaming something I think I should be feeling. 'Cause I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Searching for meaning, trying to give purpose. I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead because I can probably tell what the rest of it sound like there. 'Cause we're just living, taking boxes, watching, taking clocks and waiting on time say that everything will work out. We just have to hold on, standing in this line. But I have all these questions, trying to make some sense of how we do life. 'Cause does this make us happy? Does this matter really? used to think we were happy, then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up, 'cause I used to think we were happy, then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up, 'cause I think I might have been dreaming something I think I should be feeling. 'Cause I used to think this was happy, then I woke up. And obviously there are a couple of things that you'll be able to hear are missing off this. Mainly the strings parts are missing off this so far. The only strings part we've got is the bass part that would then be played on the cello eventually. But yeah, obviously those string parts that I had written are not on here yet. And that's because at this stage I hadn't technically written it. I mean, in a way I'd kind of written it, because every time I sang this song to myself, when I got to the end of the chorus, I'd go so I knew that was what was going to go there, and I always knew that was going to be, well, in my head it was always going to be a violin part doing that, and then I wrote these accompanying cello parts, and then when we came to record everything, plans changed. So yeah, so that isn't on this original yet, because I hadn't gotten around to working out what it actually was on violin yet, because I think this track is actually recorded before I got my violin. I think this demo here I recorded before I got the violin, because it was part of why I wound up taking up violin again and getting violin, because I thought, I really want violin on this. I bet I could write a violin part for this. I bet I could play a violin part for this. I did that thing where my brain just went crazy planning things that it should have been curbed on a little bit, maybe. Anyway, but a lot of the bones is obviously there already, like that entire bass part. I think I actually just took sections of this and printed them out, the sheet music, to let Polly, who did all my cello parts for me, know what the bass would be doing in that part. There are some changes to the final thing, because, you know, there were bits where it was maybe a little bit too busy, or where it had to be changed to fit the cello a bit better, I think. But yeah, there were some changes. And obviously the other thing is I put in the sort of guide drums, you know, to give James an idea of what I wanted the way of drums. And actually, quite comically, this was the track that wound up getting me to get Pete on a bunch of the other tracks. So you might have remembered me mentioning when I put out Play Pretend that I had some percussion done for that track, and that my buddy Pete, that I know from the local music scene, who is a really great drummer and general percussionist, he's a brilliant percussionist. He makes his own little instruments out of things that he's picked up off out of the trash and stuff like that, and he plays pretty much any, if you can hit it with a stick or shake it, he plays it. He literally has so many different bits of weird percussion from all over the place, and some bits of percussion that aren't even like real genuine instruments. They're literally just things that if you hit, they make a cool sound, and I think there's actually a couple of weird things like that on the tracks that he has used to record for me. But yeah, this was the track that was part of, because I was thinking in the back of my mind that I might ask Pete to do some percussion on one of the other tracks, but I was thinking, is it worthwhile, you know, just getting somebody to do one little bit on one little track? But as we were recording this one, it came up that James of Esh House Audio did not even have a tambourine in the studio that he could play for me, and that he could try. He could get himself a tambourine, but at the time he didn't have a tambourine in the studio to play. But he said, if I could get a tambourine and give it a go playing over this, But, you know, you might be better off either just using the MIDI that is already on here. It's like, well, the MIDI does sound very MIDI. You know, it does sound like MIDI playing. And I thought, you know, I feel like an actual tambourine is going to sound a little bit better. And I was like, that's fine. I know a brilliant percussionist. I know that he can play the tambourine so freaking well that it will sound like MIDI has done it, but with that more authentic feel that things tend to have when they're not actually just MIDI being activated. Yeah, so this was the track that sort of made me decide, okay, I'm definitely going to message Pete, and I'll send him a few tracks, and I'll get him to do some experimental stuff on some of the others. There are 2 other tracks. So there's Play Pretend, there's this one, and then there are 2 other tracks that are going on the album that have percussion by Pete on them. Percussion by Pete, that's so satisfying. Anyway, so yeah, so this was the track that really made me decide to actually message him and get some percussion. Just a reminder, because I don't know if anybody is messaging anything in the chat at the moment, but I mentioned this in the last stream. I forgot to mention it at the start of this one. I won't be looking at the chat in between, like, until I'll only look at the chat like in between the different demos, because I'd have to switch screens over. Otherwise, I'd just be showing you guys, because I'm showing you guys the screen right now to show you the Logic project. And I would end up just showing you the chat and everything I said, and that just, one, I don't think that would be very interesting for you guys to look at. You probably don't want to look at it too much, and also it just feels weird to show you guys the behind the scenes quite that much. It just feels weird. Plus, then you'd see all the analytics about how there's never anyone in the streams, and that would be sad. Recorded evidence of the fact that I'm not very good at this social media stuff. Anyway. What else was I going to say about... Oh, one thing that I think did end up changing is I didn't end up going with this harmony in the bridge here, so... There are bits of it, like that bit at the start is in the final one, but I think this bit... all these questions trying to make some sense of how we do life, 'cause does this make us happy? Does this wound up changing quite a bit, and obviously if you listen to the final mix, you'll hear that harmony is nowhere near as prominent as I had it in my original version of this demo. I originally thought that one, I was going to layer up more harmonies there, and 2, they were going to be a lot more prominent in that section, and obviously in the end what I went with instead was a lot of strings. So we shall move on to the next one, I think. So I'll just switch you guys over to just my face, so you don't have to watch me slowly open a Logic project, because that would be boring to watch. And I can actually check in with the chat. Is that Pete Mitchell? It is in... That is his surname, isn't it? Yes? That is his surname, isn't it? It's Pete of Ideal Forgery. It's that Pete. It's Pete of Ideal Forgery fame. I think his surname, it is Mitchell, his surname, isn't it? You got me questioning myself now, Andy, because I'm not good enough with my memory to be able to say for certain. But I'm pretty sure that is his name. Ideal Forgery, Pete. That's his name. We'll just load up this next demo. We can show you. There'll be a couple in the middle that I'll throw up just for the sake of showing you things, but there's not much to show in them. But I think there's quite a bit to show in this second one, so we should have a few interesting things to look at. There we go. We'll just quickly go through this one. Right, I can switch you guys back over now. Ta-da! This also means I can't look at the chat again for a bit, so don't say anything interesting. Let's just give it a playthrough as always. Simplest of pleasures, the moments we treasure, things we think matter, none of it quite measures up. Look at all those vocals, guys. I did doubles on all the harmonies. I don't know why I bothered doing that. It's not the final version. I didn't need to do that. Just went crazy.
Something I still haven't found. I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up. 'Cause I think I might have been dreaming something I think I should be feeling.
They do sound nice when they're all doubled like that, don't they? Even though there are a couple of long ones in there. The violin. Don't judge this violin playing, okay? This is literally the first take of this I did. That was my first attempt at putting the violin on this.
Searching for
No judgment.
Trying to give purpose to feeling. I need to feel needed. Isn't
I'm
that
just going to jump
same
it forward
for
because
all
again
of
there
us?
isn't much going on differently here.
Feeling. I used to think this was happy. Then I woke up. So we're just there taking boxes, watching ticking clocks and waiting on some sign. Everything will work out, we just have to hold us down in this line. I have all these questions trying to make some sense of how we do life. 'Cause does this make us happy? Yes, does this ever really?
So you can actually hear
I
there
used to think we were happy.
how messy all of that was.
Up,
So I think I only did one
up,
part.
and now when I picture me happy,
Check.
I get choked up. And I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get choked up. 'Cause I think I might have been dreaming something I think I should be feeling. I used to think this was happy. Then I woke up.
Oh yeah, I was originally doing that at the end as well, and I decided not to in the end because it wasn't working. Too much. Too much. Bad violin. Terrible violin playing. Oh, we don't need to listen to that again. We don't need to listen to the terrible violin playing again. I'm going to mute them and replace them with their MIDI so that we don't have to hear that again. Yeah, so the main thing with this second one was getting those string parts down and written, because I knew that it was going to be, the violin part was going to go da-da-da-da-da-da, and I knew that I wanted cello parts and, you know, probably another harmonizing violin part underneath that, so it would be nice and lush sounding, you know, really big string sound with lots of, like a little quartet, like I had my own quartet playing on the song. So I wrote a lower violin part and a cello part. You can see the ones in the bridge, but there was also a lower violin part and a cello part that eventually goes here. Obviously those have not been written yet on this particular one. I think they must have been written on the next one, maybe. We'll have a look if they're there on the next one. That might be the one change. But the two big things I was trying to achieve here was to get that stuff written, so that then I could export the sheet music for them. And also I needed to do a version because obviously James has done the drums at this point. You could hear those were different drums there, and that's actually in the studio track at the top here, those drums, because that's James playing. But the one thing we didn't have was the tambourine, so I left the tambourine on so I could bounce out a version of this song to send to my buddy Pete. And I had to also bounce out a version with the tambourine muted as well. So that one, he had a guide of what the tambourine needed to be doing, and two, he had a track to then record the tambourine on too, and then send me the files he bounced out of that. Yeah, so I needed to do those two things, was write those violin parts / cello parts. Specifically as well, I really needed to write those cello parts, because I knew that the easiest way for Polly to work was probably going to be if I brought her sheet music to play off of. I could just do what I do with Ben, where when we're doing bass parts, I'll just start singing stuff at him in the studio. I'll sit there and just point to frets and like, give me that one. But I feel like that's a less efficient way to do cello, especially because I learnt violin, I can write and read sheet music. And I know that if you put in MIDI in here, you can bring up the sheet music for the MIDI. So I can, let me just find it. It'll be in window, won't it? Window. Where is it? Show, open smart, open score editor. If I open the score editor, the score is the sheet music. Da 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 da. So you can see the sheet music for that piece there, for that little bit of MIDI. So I knew I'd be able to do that, and then you can make it so that these look like a proper piece of sheet music and not just one long thing like that, because then you don't usually write it one long thing like that. You'd have it rows that would then fit on a piece of paper, and then just screenshot that. You can literally just screenshot it, and then you've got a piece of sheet music that you can print out and bring to your friend, and she can then play it. Yeah, so that was the big thing I was trying to achieve with this one. And the way I did it, right, was the main way I did it was I started, you can see this here, this vocal bounce in place track here that's muted. If I unmute that, in fact, I'm just going to solo it and play it to you what that actually is. It's me singing the part, because I did my trick that I've told you guys about before that I learned off of another creator, of you can sing in melodies, and then because Logic has its own pitch correction software, the pitch correction software works on extracting data about what pitch the notes are, and obviously the notes you're singing, and once it has that data, you can then just export that to MIDI as well. So that's what these are, which is why this, if you look, this piece, this green one here, which is a MIDI, that's track's not the word I want. I've forgotten what the name of one of these little blobs on a track is. If anyone can remember what it is, they can pop it in the chat. But the green one here, this is the MIDI one, and this blue one is an audio one. So that's the original recording I did, the other muted one here. I then picked out the one that sounded the best, bounced that out to a track of its own so that I could then tune it. I then tuned it so that everything was actual perfect note and was the correct note, because obviously sometimes when you sing things, you don't necessarily sing them exactly on pitch, especially when you're doing it as lazily as I was doing this. And then I could take that data from the tuning software and export it to MIDI. And that's why these two files have the same name, because that's the MIDI that is exported from that file. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Anyway, so yeah, that's how I did that. And I did that for all these, so you can hear, I'll solo these so we can have a little listen to these. These were the 3 violin / cello parts that I came up with for the bridge section. And I am a little bit sad that the final version obviously doesn't have that on it. You guys have heard the final master, and you probably be able to listen to it and hear that they aren't, all those parts aren't on it. Only the cello parts are left on it. Yes, that's the one. No problem being late, John. Sorry that I couldn't greet you when you arrived. I can't really look at the chat when I'm doing the share the screen thing, because otherwise I'm just showing you guys everything on the chat and stuff, and all the behind the scenes stuff, and that's a bit dull to look at, innit? But hello, lovely to have you again. Cool, everybody's here now. Yeah, so it's a little bit sad that that I didn't end up being able to put those on. I'm just going to look at Demo 3 and see if it's worth playing it at all, or if I'll just skip over it and go to Demo 4 straight away. Because there's probably new stuff on it, but there's probably stuff that I've already talked about, and there isn't really that much to listen to. Oh. I've just found a staple with my foot there. There are lots of little staples still around this room somewhere from making my vocal booth, because I had to staple the fabric on, and some of the staples wound up everywhere, and I've just managed to find one with my foot there. But luckily not by standing on it, just by sort of scraping my foot over it. So I'm just going to pop that there so it doesn't end up getting stood on later, because that wouldn't be fun. This one's taking forever to load. There we go. Yeah, okay. So the only difference on this one is that there are I'm just going to show it to you so you can see the difference with this one. Is that there are so many little recorded violin tracks of me attempting to try and get it right, practice it, play it out for the whole thing. I'm not going to play them to you because, one, they're embarrassing, and two, I don't want to subject you guys to that painful. Although I think two of them aren't that bad. I think this one might not be that bad. The ones I did at home weren't quite as bad as the ones I did in the studio, but that may partially be because when I was recording them at home, the bad acoustics of the room that then would have come out when I was actually trying to mix the track, and been a problem then, were probably masking some things in there that the good acoustics of the studio meant I couldn't get away with, that you could hear the little issues there and stuff, but also probably slightly less pressure just trying to, just messing about trying to get it down at home. Is not the same as trying to actually record the final version in the studio. Anyway, but yeah, that's the main difference on this one, is just these recorded tracks of me faffing about trying to write these parts, and obviously you've got the actual violin part in there as well, has appeared now. The cello part still isn't there, from what I can see. It must. Oh, I must have just taken it from this section, maybe. No. I don't know where it is. There is a cello part in that section as well. Lord knows where I actually pulled the MIDI from, because you can see there's no MIDI on the cello there. So I don't know where I got the sheet music, but I definitely wrote it, and it's played on the track. So I have the sheet music as proof somewhere. I've filed that away somewhere. But yeah, that's the only difference there, is just those recorded violin parts. So we shall just click out of this again quickly, and I'll just chat some rubbish and check the chat and stuff again while we close this down and open up the next one. Yeah, sure, save it, why not? I didn't make any changes, but... Oh, I should have said don't save. Oh, there we go. Whoop. I should just quit that as well, because that'll save some energy. Right, this is the last demo now, and you'll be able to hear that things are starting to sound, a lot like the final track at this point. That is always the case when you get towards the end. We've recorded a lot in the studio now. I'm pretty sure that there will actually be... You'll probably hear the violin parts I did in the studio, because I think they're on the studio track on this one. And you'll be able to hear Polly's cello parts, which came out so good, because she's amazing. Oh, we got horrible lag because I'm asking the laptop to do too many things at once. Oh, bless it. This is why I don't like to stream too much with Logic up, because OBS and Logic trying to do things at the same time on the laptop, and then also send out a stream signal. It tends to end with lagginess and stuff. Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah. This is... Oh, my God. Okay, so this final demo, the big thing with this demo that I will show you here, there's one change that we'll talk about in a sec, But the big thing that I did with this final demo was I asked James to send me all of the violin parts for me to go through at home, because we recorded so many, and I figured maybe I could go through them all and find some better versions. Or maybe, if I had a go at trying to mix it at home as well, maybe I could figure out how to mix what I was hearing that I wasn't quite liking a bit better outside of the studio stressful environment of trying to get it done. That's what this is. Searching for meaning, trying to give purpose to feeling. Can you hear that beautiful cello, man? Need to feel needed. Cello sounds gorgeous. Isn't that good? Just living, ticking boxes, watching ticking clocks and waiting on some sign that everything will work out. We just have to hold out standing in this line. I have all these questions trying to make some sense of how we do life. Cause does this make us happy? Yes, does this matter really? So obviously I am listening with a slightly more trained ear than some people will be to strings stuff in general, because if you've learned one stringed instrument, you're going to know more about the strings family, the same way that someone who knows how to play drums to really any decent level, you don't have to be like a proper virtuoso to hear certain things on certain instruments. Just once you start learning them, you start hearing things that people who haven't learned them don't really hear about what is specifically wrong with the playing that makes it sound not as good. And I think the problem is, if I just recorded these violin parts without having then Polly having done the cello, maybe I could have gotten away with it a bit better. Maybe. Probably still not, because they really aren't great. But it really shows up when you can hear the really well played cello versus the much more amateur violin playing. Because, it's not like it sounds really awful and really screechy. It's a little bit squeaky in places. We could have, fixed that a little bit. A little bit of EQing helped to tone that down a bit and help to, muting certain sections and stuff, messing with things like the automation of the volume to bring it up and down to that would have helped with it a little bit. But the biggest thing you can't really do anything about is you can kind of hear me counting in a way that you can't hear Polly counting when she was playing. Polly was just playing it very much more, but you can hear me going, and this note, and this note, and this note. It came out really ploddy. It's not really perfectly in time, and not in a way that if you just altered it would sound all right, because it's not a part where, sometimes with parts, if you haven't played them perfectly in time on an instrument, you can, go in the post-production stage and just literally cut that bit out and just shift it over so it's more in time. And certain instruments you can get away with that more on than others. Drums are a classic example of one where quite often if something's a little bit out of time on the drums, you can just go in and nudge it and it won't really sound like you've done that, except that it will be in time now. But other instruments it's harder to get away with it on, and I think the stringed instruments or like woodwind instruments is probably the same with them as well, because they're done with that flow of the bow. I didn't intend for that to rhyme, it just did. I don't think it really works quite as well on them. I think that's also the reason why real, genuine played violin and cello sound different, really different from sampled, because, synths that you play on a keyboard, for the most part, when it's a synth violin, it's not actually a synth violin a lot of the time, it's a sampled violin. But even if it's a sampled actual violin where someone's played that note, it's still going to sound different from someone actually playing the whole section. because you're not going to get that nice flow that you get, because you really do get a flow to those types of instruments because of how they're played, that you just can't really fake it, not properly. And maybe we could have just cheated and used MIDI violin on this and it would have sounded alright. You know, the MIDI violin that I had on Logic, I don't think sounded very nice. I don't like the violin sounds on Logic that much. I think all of them sound a bit but we might have been able to find one in some pack. Maybe Pro Tools would have had a nicer one. Maybe you know, there'd be some sample pack out there I could have found that had a nicer one. I could have put that on, but I really wanted to actually play it because the cello had actually been played, and it just didn't work out in the end. So after messing about with this final demo, I decided that the best thing I could do for the track was to let go of the violin, as much as I really wanted to have it on there. And I am sad that it's not on there, because I think those parts, especially in the bridge section, you know,
We're just living, ticking boxes, watching ticking clocks and waiting on some sign that everything will work out. We just have to hold it standing in this line.
I mean, if I mute
I have all these questions trying to make some sense of how we do life. Cause does this make us happy? Yes, does this matter really?
just play that through.
Standing in this line, I have all these questions trying to make some sense of how we do life. Cause does
Just having the cello on there still, you get a bit of that feel, but it is sad that we couldn't have the full quartet feeling version of it. You know, maybe one day in the future, if I ever have the money and the time to make it worthwhile trying to do this, maybe I will try and do like a strings version of this, where I enlist the help of people to get like a quartet version done. But it was the best decision for the track, was to let go of the violin. So the final version, which I will just get up for you guys now. I'm just going to switch over to do that because I have to find it and I don't want to just hunt through my files whilst casually streaming it to you all, because that would be weird. Oh, I forgot the other thing before I close this. Don't close that. The other thing that I did add here, that then went on the final track, is this synth, because I was listening to it and just like, there's something missing. It's probably just a really quiet in the background pad synth. That's usually what's missing on something, is if it feels like there's just missing a bit of air, a bit of sparkle to it, a bit of something else. It's quite often a nice high sparkly pad synth. Adding that to tracks really gives them this sort of lift, but you don't ever really hear the synth. You wouldn't know that it's there, but you would know if it wasn't there. If you took it out, you would miss it. But you don't ever really realise it's there. Anyway, let's just switch over and give a quick listen to the final version. Shall we do this on Spotify, actually? Shall we listen on Spotify and give myself a stream? Let's do that. Let's listen to it on Spotify. Although then I would be showing you guys my Spotify, and I don't know. Do I want to show you guys my Spotify? Would you end up seeing anything that might embarrass me? Like what I've been streaming obsessively recently? I don't think I've been streaming much obsessively recently, because I've put together a practice playlist of songs that I'm trying to learn for my covers repertoire, and I've just put them all in one playlist that I've been listening to quite a bit. So that's probably what most of my listening history is at the moment. That and Nova Story's new song. A couple of other people's that have had new songs out as well. They'll be in there. But let's just load up Spotify. Give ourselves the stream. Why not? Da 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 da. It's going to take forever to do this, isn't it? Why are you taking so long? I'm just going to make this... Can I make this really... Can I zoom in on it or something? I just want to show you this section. So we don't have to look at everything else. Oh, I know what I'll do. One sec, I'll just do this. And now if I do this, hey, you guys can just hear it like that. There you go. I don't have to show you the screen. Go back to start.
Simplest of pleasure.
And this is the final version, which you guys have heard before, probably.
Moments we treasure.
I hope you have. If you haven't streamed it yet, I would be quite offended, not gonna lie. Oh, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, which means you guys are getting this.
Things I've been chasing.
I don't know why I'm doing an impression of it, like, that impression is gonna come through on the stream, it's not.
Something I still haven't found.
But yeah, obviously, in the end, what we did was we turned up the volume of the cellos. Because obviously in that last version you would have heard that the cellos were a lot quieter because originally they were going to be more backgroundy because the violin was going to be the lead there. So we just turned it up. Sound beautiful. I wish I could have played the violin like that, because then it would have been. Or I could have hired someone to do it, but budget, you know.
Need to feel needed. Isn't that the same for all of us? Running in circles, losing my mind twice a week. All of this purpose feels like someone else chose it for me. 'Cause I used to think we were happy. Then I woke up. Now when I picture me happy, I get sure.
Overall, I'd say the final version wound up a lot cleaner and clearer and crisper than that initial demo was. Because I had a lot of stuff sort of fighting for the top volume level in the track. You know, I had those harmonies a lot higher originally, and I think there were actually fewer of them on the final version as well. If I remember correctly, I didn't do one of the lower ones, I don't think.
We're just living, ticking boxes, watching ticking clocks and waiting on sunset. Everything will work out, we just have to hold us standing in this day.
Ah, yeah, and in the end, because of that, because I took the violins out, I added back in the harmony. I forgot about that. That because I took that violin out, we decided to have both those harmonies in.
I used to think we were happy. Then I woke
So yeah,
up.
overall, you know, I had a pretty clear idea right from the start what this would sound like. I'm just going to turn it down a little as we and as things progressed, basically it was just a case of as things got recorded in the studio, the demos changed, and I added some little things in towards the end, but for the most part, all of the parts were already either in my head and just I needed to write them, or they were on that original demo pretty much, just, you know, had slight alterations once we were in the studio. Which leaves me very confident about my ability to try and do this kind of stuff entirely by myself at home. I feel like I'm going to do an alright-ish job. But yeah, this one didn't have that many big changes to it, really. The biggest one was actually taking something off in the end. I hope you all love the final track as it came out. And I hope you guys think it was the right decision to just take. I've just realised that Spotify is probably going to try and play something else. It is. There we go. Right, let's not let it do that. Yeah, I hope you like the final track and all of the choices that I made on the mix in the end. And I hope you found it interesting to see the journey, as always. Like I said, I will do this for, there we go, the second I stop trying to make it do other things at the same time, it's able to, yep, it does not like trying to do all that stuff at once. Anyway, not the point. The quality of the stream is not the point right now. I will do a stream like this for for 2 of the tracks off the album when it comes out, I think. And I think we will go with, we might try and do them both in one stream if we can, maybe. We'll have to see if I've decided to actually get not a graphics card, a capture card and a HDMI cable and can use my other camera at that point. Maybe, we'll see. But yeah, I will do a couple of the songs off the album when they come out. And it's getting there now. We are at the point where I should have the final mixes soon, and I should be able to get that sent off to be mastered, and I will release it pretty quickly after I get the masters, because I've been talking about releasing it for so long. I want to get it out there in the world now, for you guys. But yeah, that is all. There will be a video on Thursday of a behind the scenes of the music video shoot. Mostly just funny moments, because I couldn't really do proper behind the scenes footage for this one, because a lot of the shoots, there wasn't like a big setup like there was for the Play Pretend video or anything like that to record. And once I was, a lot of them, it's once I'd set it up, I couldn't really record myself setting it up, because a lot of it was just me climbing into awkward positions to record myself. But yeah, there'll be a little outtakes video on Thursday from the music video. I probably won't stream next week, just because I was planning to have a week off this week, which obviously then wound up being this stream. So I'm going to have a week off next week instead, and we'll see about streams after that. I will let you guys know. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, and I will see you when I see you. Thank you, John. You have a good night. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to sign off now.